Have you ever noticed how some people walk through life smiling, while others walk through it seeing everything? Not just what people say, but what they mean. Not just love, but the transaction hiding beneath it. Not just kindness, but the insecurity begging to be accepted. At first, it feels like intelligence, like a gift, like you've escaped the illusion everyone else is trapped inside. But then one day you realize something terrifying. The more deeply you understand human nature, the harder it becomes to feel close to anyone. Because once you see the pattern, you can never unsee them, and that is the curse. You start noticing how people change their personality depending on who they're around, how confidence is often just fear wearing expensive clothes, how loyalty disappears the moment convenience enters the room. You hear people say, "I love you," but your mind automatically searches for the condition attached to it. You stop listening to words, you begin studying motives, and suddenly the world becomes painfully predictable. The loudest man in the room, usually the weakest. The person desperate for attention, often starving for validation, the one pretending not to care, usually cares the most. Human behavior begins to feel less magical and more mechanical. Like everyone is following invisible programming they don't even know exists. And maybe the hardest part is this. You can no longer participate in social illusions the same way others do. Small talk exhausts you. Fake smiles irritate you. Performative confidence becomes almost unbearable to watch. You stop enjoying crowds because crowds are emotional machines. People absorb each other's emotions without thinking. Fear spreads, anger spreads, desire spreads. Most people don't even choose what they want. They inherit it from the environment around them. And once you realize that, you start feeling alone in rooms full of people. Because while everyone else is reacting emotionally, you're observing psychologically. You notice how people seek status more than truth. How attraction often has less to do with love and more to do with emotional stimulation. How people rarely remember what's right, only what feels good in the moment. And slowly, your innocence dies. As a child, you believed people were honest. As an adult, you realize honesty is often strategic. People tell the truth when it benefits them, lie when it protects them, and stay silent when truth becomes dangerous. That realization changes you forever. You stop taking things personally because you understand that most human behavior has nothing to do with you. The rude cashier, probably carrying stress from home, the emotionally distant partner, fighting battles they never learned how to express, the arrogant man, terrified of feeling insignificant. Understanding human nature makes you more compassionate, but strangely less connected. Because compassion and closeness are not the same thing. You begin forgiving people internally while simultaneously distancing yourself from them. And that contradiction becomes emotionally exhausting. You understand too much to hate people, but you've seen too much to trust easily. That's the curse nobody talks about. People romanticize intelligence. They glorify emotional awareness. But deep awareness comes with a price. The price is disappointment. Because the more clearly you see human nature, the more difficult it becomes to maintain fantasy. You start recognizing that many relationships survive not because of love, but because of fear of loneliness. Many friendships survive because of convenience. Many ambitions are fueled by insecurity rather than passion. Even morality becomes complicated. You realize most people are good when life is easy, but pressure reveals character faster than philosophy ever will. A person can preach kindness for 10 years until envy enters the room. That's when human nature reveals itself. And once you see this enough times, you stop being shocked by betrayal. In fact, betrayal starts feeling inevitable. Not because humans are evil, but because humans are emotional creatures constantly negotiating survival, desire, ego, and fear. People want love, but they also want freedom. They want honesty, but they also want comfort. They want loyalty, until loyalty becomes inconvenient. Understanding this makes you wiser, but it also steals something from you. Wonder. You stop idealizing people. You stop believing appearances. You stop falling for charm so easily. And ironically, while others think you've become cold, the truth is you've simply become aware. Because awareness changes the way you experience everything. You start hearing insecurity hidden inside jokes. You notice pain behind anger. You recognize manipulation inside affection. Some people call this maturity, but sometimes it feels more like emotional isolation, because there's a strange loneliness that comes from seeing through things too quickly. You walk into a room and immediately understand the hierarchy. Who's trying to impress whom? Who secretly feels invisible? Who's pretending to be confident? Who needs validation? And while everyone else is emotionally participating in the moment, you're analyzing it from above. It becomes difficult to just enjoy things. Even attraction changes. You stop being impressed by beauty alone because you realize beauty often hides unresolved chaos. You stop chasing excitement because you understand excitement and peace rarely live in the same person. You begin craving authenticity more than stimulation. But authenticity is rare. Most people wear masks even with themselves. That's another painful truth about human nature. People lie to themselves before they lie to others. They convince themselves they're happy, convinced they're in control, convinced they're different. But beneath every polished identity is a frightened human being trying to survive emotionally. And when you truly understand that, something inside you softens. You become less judgmental. Because you realize everyone is fighting invisible battles with their ego, trauma, fear, loneliness, and desire for significance. The cruel person wants power because they once felt powerless. The attention seeker fears invisibility. The perfectionist fears rejection. The people pleaser fears abandonment. Suddenly, human behavior begins making sense, and that's when the curse becomes even heavier. Because once you understand the pain behind people's actions, anger becomes harder to hold on to. You start carrying empathy even for people who hurt you, not because what they did was acceptable, but because you see the wound behind the weapon. And honestly, that can become emotionally draining, because now you're not only dealing with your own emotions, you're unconsciously carrying awareness of everyone else's too. You notice tension instantly. You sense dishonesty immediately. You feel emotional shifts others miss completely. Your nervous system becomes hyper-aware, and eventually you begin craving solitude. Not because you hate people, but because silence becomes the only place where human performance disappears. In solitude, nobody is trying to dominate. Nobody is selling an identity. Nobody is competing for validation. It's peaceful, but solitude has its own danger. Too much isolation turns awareness into detachment. You stop expecting depth from people. You stop opening up. You stop believing anyone will truly understand you. And sometimes you become emotionally unavailable without realizing it. Because part of you thinks, what's the point? You already know how temporary people can be, how emotions change, how attraction fades, how loyalty bends under pressure. So you guard yourself. You become selective, careful, hard to impress. But deep down, there's still a human inside you wanting connection like everyone else. That's the irony. Even the person who understands human nature the most still longs to be understood, still wants loyalty, still wants peace, still wants real love untouched by manipulation, ego, or performance. And maybe that's why this understanding hurts so much. Because awareness doesn't remove human needs, it only removes illusions. You still want connection. You're just no longer naive about it. And perhaps maturity is learning how to live with both truths at once. To understand human flaws without becoming cynical. To recognize manipulation without becoming paranoid. To see masks without forgetting there's still a real person underneath them. Because human nature is dark one, but it's also beautiful. Yes, people betray. But people also sacrifice. Yes, humans manipulate. But humans also heal each other. Yes, ego destroys relationships. But love still exists in rare moments where people choose honesty over pride. The goal is not to hate humanity after understanding it. The goal is to understand it deeply enough that you stop expecting perfection. Because perfection was never real. Humans are contradictions. We want freedom while craving attachment. We want honesty while fearing rejection. We want to be seen but hide our true selves constantly. And maybe wisdom is accepting this paradox instead of fighting it. The curse of understanding human nature is that you lose innocence, but the gift is that you gain clarity. You stop worshiping people, stop fearing them, stop depending on their validation for your worth. You begin seeing humans as they truly are. Wounded, beautiful, contradictory, fragile creatures trying to survive emotionally in a world that constantly pressures them to perform. And perhaps the strongest people are not the ones who stay naive, but the ones who see human nature clearly and still choose kindness anyway. Because anyone can become bitter after seeing darkness. But remaining compassionate after understanding people deeply, that is rare. That is strength. And maybe that's the only way to escape the curse.